Hello and welcome to lesson 5.3. Today we're going to look at adding and subtracting fractions. Before we begin, I want to reiterate to you that in order to add or subtract fractions, you must, and I cannot emphasize you must, have a common denominator. So what does a common denominator mean? Remember, when we have a fraction, you have the numerator on top. So it goes numerator, so I don't know why this isn't, over the denominator. So this bottom number here is your denominator. If the denominators are not the same, then you must make them the same. Okay, so you can see they just use letters here. If I have two different letters, remember the best way to do a common denominator is to multiply the denominators together, which is going to give us, in this case, BD and DB. And you're going to have to multiply, so if I multiply this bottom B by D, then I have to multiply the top by D as well. Likewise, to get DB on the bottom, I had to multiply D by B, so then I have to multiply the C by B. And we'll do a couple examples. Now the other thing, when you're adding or subtracting fractions, a lot of times I personally think it's easier if we convert our mixed numbers, okay, remember this right here is a mixed number, into an improper fraction. And the way you're going to do this is you're going to multiply the whole number in the denominator. So I end up with 4 times 3, which is going to give me 12. Then I'm going to add the numerator. So I end up with plus 1. So this here will give me 13 thirds. So a lot of times I think it's easier if we convert to an improper fraction. So let's take a quick look at a few examples. Example 1 says, Allie hiked 2 2/3 mile near Mount Shasta and then another 1 3/4 miles to his campsite. How far did he hike in all? So essentially what we are going to do is we're going to take our 2 2/3 miles and we are going to add that to 1 3/4 mile. Now before I begin, I will always go and convert my mixed numbers to improper fractions. So looking at my 2 2/3, remember I'm going to multiply my 2 and my 3, then I'm going to, so 2 times 3 is 6, plus the numerator here, which is 2, so this is going to give me 8 thirds, plus here I have 4 times 1, which is 4, plus my 3, which will give me 7, and my denominator is still 4. So ultimately, I'm adding 8 thirds and 7 fourths. So the first thing I notice is I have two different denominators. So I'm going to make my denominators the same. So to do that, I'm going to multiply the denominators. So I get 3 times 4. So this is going to give me a denominator of 12 on the bottom. So if I multiply this 3 by a 4, I must also multiply the numerator by 4. So 8 times 4 is 32. And I multiplied my denominator of 4 by 3, which means I have to multiply the 7 by 3. So I end up with 21 twelfths. Now, because I have a denominator of 12 on both of these fractions, all I have to do is add my numerators. My denominator is going to be the same thing as what I made it, and I have 32 plus 21, which will give me 53 twelfths, and my unit is miles. Now, if you want to, you can rewrite this as a mixed number. However, I will not mark it wrong. But if you're a person that likes to write your fractions as a mixed number, remember we really have 53 divided by 12, which is going to give us 4. So we could say that this is 4, and 4 times 12 is 48. So 53 minus 48 is going to give me 5. So I really have 4 and 5/12 miles if you prefer. And again, I will accept either one of these. Example 2 says, an upholsterer cuts a piece of cording 1 2/3 foot long from a piece that's 2 1/4 foot long. How much cording is left? So we're ultimately starting out with 2 1/4 foot, and we're going to be subtracting 1 2/3 foot. So again, I'm going to start out by writing my fractions as improper. So I have 4 times 2 is 8 plus my 1. This gives me 9/4 minus 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 is going to give me 5/3. And again, my denominators are not the same, so I'm going to have to multiply them. So if I multiply this 4 by a 3 and my numerator by 3, that's going to give me 27/12. And from that, I'm going to take, I have to multiply my 3 by a 4, and I'm going to have to multiply my 5 by a 4, so I end up with 20/12 here. And again, my denominator is going to stay in twelfths, and I will just subtract 27 minus 20, which will give me 7/12, and my unit is feet. And in this case, there's nothing I can do to simplify that, so I'm just going to leave it as is. And my last example for the day says, a recipe for punch calls for 1 1/2 quarts of orange juice, 1 1/4 quarts of ginger ale, and 3/4 quarts of cranberry juice. How many quarts of punch will the recipe make? So here we're going to add up all of our quantities. So we have 1 1/2 plus 1 1/4 plus 3/4. So again, we'll go ahead and start out by making our mixed numbers improper fractions. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 gives me 3/2, plus 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1, which is 5/4, and then I'm just going to add that final 3/4. Now in this case, you can multiply your denominators. Okay, I can see that I have a 2 and a 4 and a 4. So if I multiply a 2 and a 4, that can get me to 8. Or I notice that both of these have the same denominator, which is 4, and 2 will go into 4. So I can just rewrite 3/2 with a denominator of 4, and all I have to do is multiply by 2. So I really have 3 times 2, which is 6, and 2 times 2 is 4, so I could do 6/4 plus 5/4 plus 3/4 if I choose. Now again, my denominator will be in fourths, and if I add my numerators, I have 6 plus 5, which is 11, plus another 3 is going to give me 14. Okay, now 14/4 will actually reduce down. So down here, I'm going to go 14/4. 2 will go into 14 7 times, and 2 goes into 4 2 times. So I can say that I have 7/2 quarts. Or if you want to reduce that, 2 goes into 7 3 times, and it leaves me with 3 1/2 quarts. So again, either one of these I would accept. So if you have any questions, please be sure to let me know. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great day.